only 15% of employees feel like they're really engaged in their organization. Think about that, 15%. And they went on to say that 70% of employees feel like they would work harder if they felt more respected and appreciated. And thirdly, 70% of people thought their leaders lacked the communication skills required to lead. And you sit back and think about the impact on performance of people, the impact of performance on results of companies, of society, and if you could move that needle just a little bit with better leadership, you get stunning results.
One of the key pieces to this book is the idea of showing respect for the individual as well as respect for the organization goals. Too many of the books today and too many of the movements today are at the core, I'm sorry to say this, but they seem like they're coddling employees rather than respecting them and allowing them to grow and allowing them to self-actualize through the achievement of great things. And that's what we try to capture. And I get worried about that. I see it in the workplace. I see it at the university. I see it in nonprofit organizations where the word respect others gets translated into coddling others. And that's what we try to avoid. We want to be respectful of people's personal situations and their various the events in life. But at the same time, the organization has to achieve its goals. So creating that right balance is really critical. And that's what we tried to do in the book. It's faux collaboration. It's the illusion it's the illusion that you're participating when in fact you're really, really not. And I believe that is one of the reasons why so many people feel not engaged in their organizations, feel it's disingenuous. It's not a true partnership like it should have been for that couple. It's literally one side wins all the time. And if that's the case, then you are probably participating in theatrical exercises that look like collaboration, but they're really not.
The stunning thing about this whole business of leadership is that people get chosen for leadership positions based on some, let's just say, technical accomplishments. Mm-hmm. Whether it's in marketing or in finance or in sales or in any other technical field, engineering. And they do a great job with that, but they haven't had any kind of guidance or training in how to lead people. And you wouldn't think of hiring a brain surgeon to do an operation on your head if they hadn't had a whole resume of experience and practice, or a lawyer or an accountant who never balanced a checkbook before. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't think of that, but yet we put people in leadership positions without proper preparation or a dedication to continuing to learn. Mm-hmm. So we get what we invest in, and we need to invest in practical things like this book lays out to help people be better leaders. That's why at all levels of leadership, this is an important piece of work.
You have a lot of people that have a gig mentality in organizations. I'm just here to do this one job, and I'm not going to talk about anything other value I could add. And they're treated like gig workers, and you can't have an organization survive where the gig mentality pervades the entire organization.
One reason is they don't feel safe bringing their ideas forward. And so some people might think about that as an employee problem. I think that's a leadership problem. Leaders have to create a safe environment for even the shy people to bring their thoughts forward. They might feel like they have such a opposing point of view to what might be popular that they don't want to create commotion, or quite the opposite, they do want to create commotion, and they activate the situation and they don't collaborate. So it can be for a variety of reasons. I think the idea of leaders asking their people, well, how are you feeling today? Oh, good. And they take that as an affirmative sense of engagement. It's like an emoji clapping on the screen. That's a very low bar. Mm-hmm. What else is on their mind? how are they really feeling about how they're appreciated or contributing to the overall mission? Those are the kind of questions that have to be asked so that leaders get a true sense of how engaged employees really are.
You look at the idea of engagement, of bringing together people that are of different orientations, belief-wise or gender-wise, or what you pick whatever category you like. But you've got to make sure, as a leader, that you've got diverse set of people, different points of view on a particular issue that you're talking about, in order to create true engagement. Otherwise, you can fool yourself into thinking that you've engaged when you really have only engaged part of the organization or part of the sentiment on a particular thorny issue or concern. In fact, there was an article just yesterday in the Wall Street Journal publicizing a recent study done that said boards of directors that have an equal balance or roughly equal balance of Democrats and Republicans financially perform better than ones just composed of Democrats or just composed of Republicans. And I think that's a part of engagement that's important as well, is structurally, are you bringing the right people together to have that true, honest dialogue and discussion and work out differences, if you will. As a human being, when you feel like your ideas are respected and when you feel like you're part of this organization or part of this group, and you're not going to win every time maybe, but at least your voice is heard and it's heeded and treated seriously, you can move forward at a much faster, quicker clip and with a more robust response. I was involved in strategic planning with one company here in town, and one of the things we did is we brought together the voices of people that aren't normally heard. And I asked them to make a 20-minute PowerPoint presentation about a particular issue. And we engaged in dialogue. And the eyes that opened up afterwards, it's like, I never realized that person had that in them, that they could do that. And then when we came to engagement on the strategic plan of execution, boom, it just happened like that, because everybody understood. They didn't all win, quote unquote, but they were all on the same page. And so the execution, all that time you put in terms of collaboration and engaging, is a lot, but then when you come to execution and nimbleness to respond to changing environments, it's extraordinary. In fact, it's wide open. Your eyes just pop open how fast it happens, and it almost seems like magic. But it's not magic. It's magic because you've taken the time to engage people, you've taken the time to create an engaging environment, and you've created a time to really collaborate with people and bring ideas together. And that's the magic. And so that's what you're looking for from great leadership. And that's the way it should happen. And the results are, at least the ones I've seen with organizations Bob's led, situations where I've been involved in, it's just astonishing. And you sort of look back like, wow, how did we do that? How did that happen? Well, it happened because of all these techniques and approaches and basically a set of beliefs that says, we're here to lead in the right way.
The 95+% of people who walk through the door enter into an environment where they're engaged in an experience which says either I'm valued or I'm not valued, I'm appreciated or not appreciated, and my contributions, I feel like, make a difference. And if you turn on that magic, Phil calls it, that energy, the results are damn near infinite.
And they want leaders that they believe are honest and have their best interests at heart, as well as the organizations, obviously. But that genuineness and that ability to share in an honest, open way, it seems so different than what we see from a lot of leaders today. And because we don't see that, there's a widespread cynicism of employees in organizations throughout. And so I think the robust communication allows that to come through if you do it the right way.
if you think about this sincerity, this authenticity that Phil talks about, and you think about values like respect and honesty and trust, just take those three. If you could count on, if employees could count on leaders to tell the truth, to be honest about what's going on, if they could count on employees to be respectful, or count on leaders to be respectful, and if you just get those values right, everything else is easier.
I will tell you what I think you want to hear now to manipulate you now because your memory is short and you won't remember. Well, people do remember and they sense patterns. And when it becomes a very manipulative, politicized environment, everybody understands what the political correctness is and they know how to pull back their own support and their own energy and their own effort that they might normally exert from accomplishing what the organization wants, and in some cases even self-actualizing what they want in terms of their own career success. You know, regardless of your age or where you are in your career, you have to have a belief that you've never learned it all, and you're always learning. And so I always look at continuous improvement and look at the whole idea of toxic positivity is you are shutting down the opportunity to learn if you don't look at and carefully evaluate what went wrong. In fact, there was a study just released about in Denmark about who handled the COVID, according to some statistics, the best of any country of all. They now have a committee that's looking at what they could have done better in managing COVID, even though from a nation perspective, they have one of the best results of any country of all. But that's the spirit of how can you get better and what can we learn from our mistakes. And so the military has the after action reviews. And so all those types of things are relatively simple to build into the routine, and it's not thought of as a personal attack when you're talked about how you can get better. And you can still say, bravo, 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 but let's work on this. What has happened to many leaders is they've learned practices at a surface level about what you're supposed to do to be seen as a servant leadership, but they don't have underneath it the underlying belief structure to support it. And then people end up poking through that and finding they're really not sincere. They're just doing quote unquote servant leadership stuff. I mean, toxic positivity is a classic example. We'll reinforce, tell everybody you're doing a good job. Well, yes, do that. But underneath it is something else that tells us that you tell them out of respect when they're really doing a good job and you're not doing faux praise that's really out there. I think a number of people would love to elect as a president somebody who's a radical collaborator, who's radical at saying, I'm going to work together, Republicans and Democrats or whatever the issues are, and try to come to some workable conclusions about the world that we live in instead of demonizing or marginalizing people that are that we disagree with. Apparently that's what a lot of people expect. It certainly goes on all over cable TV, but at the end of the day, we have to live together, we have to work together, and we have to try to solve some of these very vexing problems that are out there affecting our society. And I think it's good for the mental health, if you will, of the society that we do that.